You were saying.
I mean, this is absurd what we're watching. We're watching the deconstruction of football until we are no longer about strategy. You know, the most appealing thing to me about football is it's chess on grass. It's the strategy. It's the understanding of what's happening. It's how do we relate to the game? What moves have to make based on the game? And now now we're getting people who are playing checkers, and it's really embarrassing. It really is what Mike McDaniel's did. And I want to ask you this in all sincerity. I have nothing against Mike McDaniel's. Everything I say on this podcast has no grain of hatred towards anybody. I don't. I'm just trying to bring out what is, to me, the variable. I don't need, I'm different than most everybody who's on television. I don't need them to tell me what they're seeing. Like Chris goes into Miami and he needs to rely on his relationships for them to tell him what's going on. I don't. I can watch the tape myself. I don't need them to tell me. I don't need to go into the Chargers and have Brendan Staley tell me what he's doing, who's playing good, who's not playing. You know, I'll just watch the tape and give you my opinion. So I'm going to ask you this question. If Mike McDaniel's is this, and that's all I ever hear about, Mike McDaniel's a genius. And I'm sure at Yale he's really good. And I'm sure that if I was in school, I would sit next to him to cheat off of him. I promise you. I would have moseyed over there and been able to look at his paper. I got that. I could figure out who's smart, when I was at Hofstra. But I'd like you, Femi, to tell me, give me 3 examples of what makes Mike McDaniel's a genius as it relates to football. I'll wait.
I mean, I'm going to be at a loss for words because I can't give you that 3. And I've been indifferent about Mike McDaniel, but I'm not sure I can give you 3 examples as to why he gets the quote-unquote genius label.
Well, let's tear it back. Let's break it down last night. He's in a 16. He comes out in the first quarter. He has 10 first downs in the first quarter. Moves the ball effortlessly. They have to settle for a couple field goals or else the game gets blown away. And all of a sudden, Pittsburgh starts coming back. They make adjustments to what Miami's doing. At the end of the half, Tua almost throws an interception.
Yep.
Sutton drops that ball. He kicks a field goal to go up 6. Okay, great. Now, during that drive, he used none of his timeouts. He let just plays come right off the clock, right? You saw it just winding down, okay? Goes in at halftime up 16-10. Comes out, he starts the second half. He's got a 3rd and 2 he calls a run that loses a yard. He hurries up to the line of scrimmage, and instead of taking a 2-score lead against a quarterback that's a rookie that's struggling, and meanwhile, I'm watching the game, and Tua is trying to throw interceptions to the other team, trying. At least 4. I think you could say he threw 5 last night, and yet you turn down points. And what in that equation makes you smart?
He's trying to outthink the room. They even said on the broadcast, or like the models and all the 4th down models said that kicking the field goal was the best decision to do in that spot because 6 + 3 = 9. And last time I checked, a 9-point game is a 2-possession game in football. And you're going to be against an offense that's struggling. And he decided that let's go ahead and run it right into the teeth of the Steelers defense, which was the only successful thing they had going for him right there in that game.
All right. So if we make it 19, now 19, okay, here's what he scored. 19. If he would have gotten to 19 points, that would have been his third highest offensive production for the season. Okay? So he's the head coach of this football team. He understands where he is. He's had 6 games. Now, he hasn't had his quarterback for 2 of them, or 2 3/4 of them, but he's watched all 6 games. Outside of the 4th quarter against Baltimore, outside of that game, he has scored 20 against New England. 10 of which came against New England. Offense gave him those points. His defense scored 10. He scored 21 against Buffalo. 6 of those, or 7 of those, came when they got the ball on the 6-yard line. He scored 15, 17, and 16. If he kicks it to 19, now that's the 3rd highest outpoint he would have had as a head coach. And yet he stubs his nose at it. And instead of going crazy, I mean, to me, I say this. My man Bill Berman sitting in the office next to me, he tweeted this out. Like, I think it's really, if I were in the analytical community, if I were a member of the analytical community, I would be going nuts for these guys giving analytics a bad name.
It really was a disgraceful decision, to be honest. I think everybody, I was following along the game on Twitter like most people do when they watch these primetime games, and every single person, whether it was from the analytical community or from the traditional community or whatever, everyone said, well, why are you not taking the 3 points right there? And yes, it's not a 100% guarantee that the field goal kicker would make it, but it's a better decision to try to go up 9 than to keep Pittsburgh into this game. That game had no business being a one-possession game. I bet on Pittsburgh, so I was happy that he made that decision to go ahead and go for it on the 4th down, but that had no business being a 16-10 game throughout that entire second half. The Steelers defense, kudos to them for keeping him into that football game, but Mike McDaniel was just as much of one of the reasons why the Pittsburgh Steelers were still in that game.
No doubt. And let's put another spin on it. Where was Mike McDaniel's adjustments after the first quarter? Once Pittsburgh decided to carry the routes, the only really play they made was the first drive of the second half, where the corner was reading the quarterback's eyes and he jumped on the flat and they got that in cut inside. And then they corrected him and said, forget reading the eyes, just stay with your guy. Stay with the guy you got. He won't be able. The last play of the game, the 3rd down boot to his left, that throw, which should have been intercepted, has to be one of the worst throws you'll see out of a quarterback. Look, I'm not a Tua hater. I don't think Tua was the 5th pick of the draft. I don't think tanking for Tua was a smart play. I said it back then. I think Tua is a very average quarterback. And as much skill as they put around him, and they have a lot of skill around him, they can't score any points even with them. They can't. I just cited it. They had one game where they scored points. Like, at some point, don't you strategize the chess match? Okay, I'm playing Tomlin. He's conservative. I know what he's going to do. He's got a rookie quarterback. They can't score any points. They're not going to score a lot of points against us unless we give up a big play. At the end of the day, points per play, Pittsburgh averaged 0.14, and the Genius averaged 0.25. That's points per play. It's absurd. Points per possession was even worse. Points per possession, they had 1.33. And Pittsburgh had 0.83. So you're playing a team that's telling you we can't score. Pittsburgh averaged 4.9 yards per play. Okay? So why would I not take 3? It would have been, again, I can't score points.
You have full agreement from me here. I think that he should have kicked that field goal there, and I'm glad he didn't, because I was able to win money off of that stupid decision.
It gave me a 3-0 week on my Bill 80 picks. I was happier than hell. I had Cleveland, which was I had Cleveland and laid the 6.5. I was happy as shit on that. And then I had, who else did I have? I had Cleveland, I had Pittsburgh, and I had the Jets. So I had those 3 I gave out on my show Sunday morning. But to me, this lack of strategy, I really believe this. I think the Daily Coach, we should do this. I think we should hold a seminar in Atlanta and charge significant money and have coaches come in and try to teach what it takes to be a head coach. Because it is becoming a lost art. And the guys that do it, the Pete Carrolls, the Bill Belichick's, the Mike Vrabels, they're the guys winning. They're the guys winning. Mm-hmm. The guys that just look, Andy Reid, they're the guys winning. The guys that just look at their play sheet and don't play complimentary football and are not watching the game. We'll get to LaFuck later, but are not watching the same game you and I are watching. They're losing. I'm all over Saleh. I've been giving him crap. But the one thing he's done in this 4-game win streak is said, you know what, Zach Wilson, you're not going to beat me. You're going to stand over there and we're going to punt, right?
Yeah. Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi. And for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.